So in some cases, they outperform doctors even. So when we say we have all these headlines, Microsoft, Google, LLMs of these companies outperform doctors by 95% accuracy. This is only partially true. From 154, 21 images completely caught me off guard. I thought this is a real picture or this is AI, and it wasn't.
Dominik Stosik.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, thanks for coming. So we work together at Sano. You're a clinical advisor. This position came for you as a surprise, or was it predicted and that was you were striving and looking for this kind of position?
I was looking for this position, but I was not sure that there is such a position. So after we got in touch, we then together created the position.
So this is a great example that AI creates new jobs.
Yes.
So can you tell us about your daily job? What do you do?
Yes, I'm a radiologist in training. That means I report on ultrasound. I perform also ultrasound. Then I report on X-rays, on CT scans, on MRI, both for children and adults. I also wanted to bridge the gap between medicine and AI, and this is how a colleague of us, Kasia Baliga-Nicholson, who I met in Warsaw once, told me, Sano is the address you have to you have to try, and so this is how I got to Sano.
So yeah, but that proves the point that the doctor with clinical reasoning capabilities and practical skills that are being taught during your education is needed in foundation like Sano that is focused on technologies that are able to be applied in a clinical setting. So I wanted to talk to you today about your presentation that I saw in Warsaw at MedMeetsTech, which was really good, so congratulations. And I really like the thesis. So you were saying that despite the fact that we've got very powerful tools, we see the limitations of applying them to clinical reasoning, right? And in this presentation, we are trying to assess to what extent those tools can simulate clinical reasoning. Would you tell us a little bit more? What is this clinical reasoning?
Yes, so you can imagine this when you look at a doctor who sees the patient for the first time in the emergency room, let's say, and the doctor sees he has chest pain, and immediately system 1, I'm talking about the system 1 and 2 thinking from Kahneman, which I will explain later. Immediately system 1 kicks in, the doctor has hypotheses. He says this can be this, this, and this. And this is simply pattern recognition. So the doctor is comparing this case to thousands of cases he has seen before, either in textbooks or in real life. But then the doctor deliberately slows down because, let's say, troponins come back, which would be an indicator for something that's going on with the heart, and they are normal. So he has to adjust his hypothesis, and he has to switch into some kind of metacognition, where he then tries to deliberately find another way, and he reasons through it. And when it comes to LLMs, they are shockingly good in imitating these two ways of thinking, and they are actually very good in system 1 thinking, in pattern recognition, because they have been trained on millions of cases. So in some cases they outperform doctors even. So when we say we have all these headlines, Microsoft, Google, LLMs of these companies outperform doctors by 95% accuracy. This is only partially true, because this is textbook knowledge which uses pattern recognition, and the model comes from the point that it doesn't understand what is going on in the patient. It just compares the symptoms and gives the most probable answer based on the training data it has been trained on. And when it comes to reasoning, this is the more interesting aspect, because these models do not reason. There is no cognition behind that. reasoning works in a way that is post hoc rationalization. So that means the model comes to its conclusions in the hidden space with all the weights in the background, and then it creates a narrative which it writes down. And this is not cognition, it's narrative. And when we tell a model you have to think better, we tell it you have to narrate better, you have to explain better what you just did. But this happens after the fact. So this is not real reasoning like we think of it. And another thing which separates doctors from LLMs is LLMs don't have the switch. They can't deliberately switch from system 1 to system 2. They don't have the metacognition. Every step they are thinking and writing it down as a token. That means a doctor can say, I think this is pneumonia. Okay, I don't think this is pneumonia, and I don't think again of pneumonia. An LLM writes down, either it's in the reasoning or in the tokens, but still it's an anchor point, so it doesn't get out. And this is why they can sometimes go in a wrong direction and cannot go back, because it's anchored down.
So let's simplify this and let's go step by step, and then I'll ask questions along the way. So you're referring to a certain way of thinking about thinking, which is Kahneman thinking fast, thinking slow, right? So one is the intuitive system that allows you quickly, without too much analysis, to kind of make a judgment. And then the system 2 would require more time, analysis, breaking things down, looking at it. When you're talking about, so that's the way of thinking that it's not only performed by doctors, but generally the depth of thinking can go these two ways. So this is strongly associated with human thinking, right? On the other side, we've got technologies, the transformers, that are able to generate the answer based on, let's say, guesswork, right? So they strip the meaning of the sentence, they associate tokens with every single word, create a mind map or ontology, its own thinking, and then because they can with certain probability say the next word or the next phrase will be this, then they deliver that kind of guess answer, right?
Yeah.
So is your criticism based on this difference that the machine is not a human being and hasn't got that ability to think human-like? And if yes, would you see the way out of it? So if that's the criticism, that machine is not the human.
It's a very philosophical question, actually. It's a very good question. First, I want to show one limitation to this, what you just explained. Mm-hmm. So when a system is predicting the next token, and let's say we give it symptoms, it predicts the most probable answer for this set of symptoms, as it has been in the literature. But what it doesn't say is that in medicine, especially in medicine, things aren't as simple as in a textbook. A patient doesn't come to you and say, I have this, this, and this, and you can choose from A, B, C, D, E, like in a medical test. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is you need not only to weigh the words in the sentence in a certain way, but you also have to filter what is important and what not. Let's say a patient says, I have a chest pain, but only when I eat spicy, and also my arm hurts, but I don't know, maybe it's because I'm sleeping on it. Mm-hmm. And this is the reality of medical work, because it's chaotic, and patients somehow, they don't say, the left side of my humerus is hurting, and I believe this might be this, and you can choose. It's mostly the time from seeing a patient to getting to think about the problem takes more of the work than to deductively think of it. I think it's more an architectural problem than a problem if it's the human aspect of thinking, because they are imitating the human way of thinking very well at this point, actually, because the pattern recognition system 1 outperforms doctors, and that's actually a huge thing. But the deliberate switching between pattern recognition, slowing down, abstracting, deliberately questioning yourself and going back, you can simulate this by chain of thoughts and other models, but it's the inherent way people think would be a complete different topic altogether, because
I got you there. I'm absolutely agreeing that there are limits to LLMs when we ask them for reasoning, especially in a clinical setting. But I think that they were not created for that purpose. So what we see is this kind of technology that is being thrown to society as an experiment.
Yes.
And what you say is a very useful feedback, how to fine-tune existing models so they are slightly better for that specific task.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we really want that. If this is, I mean, it's very good to test the boundaries of capabilities of technology, and very good to kind of try to think about possible scenarios just to make a decision at the end. Okay, this is not the way we will go, because we don't want to take away the doctor. But saying this, I can imagine situations when people are deprived of doctor, a communication. They cannot go simply to GP, so that would be beneficial for certain situations. But I think that it would have to go back then to how this technology is designed in a way, not only reasons, but shows how it reasons. So make a little bit that black box transparent. You're talking about a chain of thought, right? So it shows you the steps that have been taken to come up with a certain answer. So it's like in a test. You don't give me just a number.
Yeah,
if
exactly.
I ask you,
show me your thinking.
Show me. Yeah, I'm not sure. I was thinking about this because when you were presenting, I was thinking about this, and sometimes I know people who can be very kind of systematic in their way of thinking and taking steps. But you seeing this and you're thinking like, yeah, right steps, but whoa, gosh, this is what you're creating. It's not very good,
Yeah.
So that might be one thing, but let's remember also, let's put it also in the timeline. This paper that allowed transformers to develop was 2017. Attention is what you need, right? Jeff Hinton and the rest from Google, the team from Google started it. So I think that it took us, 9 years. We are now on a full-blown experiment on a global level. Everybody is using it. And I think that those kind of ideas, chain of thought, or maybe that you show me different hypotheses, you show me two agents that operate to criticize each other, and then you see how they come up with a certain diagnosis, might be slightly better idea. But I think that this experiment is taking us closer.
Yes, and I have to add that, especially coming from you, because you are the expert on LLMs. I believe you have your PhD was also focused towards LLMs, so you are exactly the right person to talk this to. And also, Kasia is also my supervisor, Sano. But what I wanted to say about the system, you're right. 2017 was the main turning point with the attention is all you need paper. Before then, in the 70s, we had models like MySyn developed at Stanford. Very simple if-then mechanism. It says if this, then consider this, and that was by that time a very decent approach, but it didn't consider that most of the medical data is unstructured. It's not prepared to be read by that systems. It's written hand notes, it's images, and it's not prepared to be ingested and interpreted by these models. So they died, but they didn't, because they came back as RAGs, where you have a system that has this explainability you are talking about, because it retrieves information not from what the model knows, but from papers, from guidelines, and then it reasons upon this information and answers your specific questions. And I think this might be a step into the right direction, not to train or fine-tune a model in a way that it's a universal model for everything, but specific data, if needed, retrieved from certain databases. And this would be then the perfect example of explainable.
Yeah, so now we're talking how to improve existing transformers so they are able to come up with better diagnosis, and their way of thinking is closer to what the doctor does. So you're talking about RAGs, so it's a retrieval augmented generators. So this works like this. You've got a model that is being asked to retrieve data from a certain sources, right? And I absolutely agree that may help, because you are giving certain limits, right, to the body of knowledge that's being used, right? And that knowledge hopefully is validated. In some cases, I think that it might be pushing the problem further from us. So I think that in a way that you sort of say, oh, we've got this problem, let's use other data sets, and you're giving yourself another problem, which is you need to curate them. You need to make sure that they're right. You need to make sure that they labeled in the right way. So rather than addressing the problem in a kind of way that you see that what you do brings certain quick outcome, you're sort of making the pipeline of building the model longer. As another kind of problem that it can create. But it is something that's been tested. And I must say that the way around it for me would be that you connect RAG system with limits that are biological, physical. So you give certain laws that you cannot, do this way, because this is how we understand physics and biology, and that's your playground. You cannot come up with two hearts when the blood flow is low. We've got one, and that's it, right? So giving another layer of actually this kind of old technologies, right? So this kind of symbolic technologies, making kind of hybrids, right? Combining what we have in terms of transformers and generators with those kind of old-fashioned decision trees, right? And then making it complex, right? Because right now, I agree, it's not possible to use them in this way. You were also referring to Stanford experiment. Would you tell us a little bit more about what happened there? Do you remember the details? That was a doctor, wasn't it?
Yes, and it was developed to assess bacterial infections. And you had things you could check off. You could say, if this and this and this, then consider this. It was a very, we have a basic programming language with the if-then concept. So it was working basically in that way.
So what was the goal? To show that the diagnosis for a specific condition can be automated?
I think it was one of the first attempts to create an autonomous system that can give you an answer to a clinical question once it has been input some information. I think these were the first steps.
So those 70s, right? Yes. At Stanford. So that's... Yeah, so this is not a new kind of problem and desire to create this kind of...
But I would be interested in your opinion, because when I look at these reasoning in the LLMs, it always gets me. I believe it. I believe that someone is there who is reasoning.
Right.
When I look at the way it's thinking and it's saying, oh, I'm not sure about this, I will have to double check.
Right.
Even the reasoning, the narrative is constructed to make it believable that it's human-like. Do you sometimes catch yourself believing into you're talking to actual somebody?
No.
No? Never?
No, never. No, never, because I think about it, okay, what is this company doing? And I compare how the styles. And you can clearly see the kind of brand behind and how they think about this technology.
Yeah.
It even makes me laugh when LLMs try to put themselves in this aura of, ooh, maybe I'm not the human, but machine is not enough. It makes me laugh. I don't see it this way. But I think that there is a great advantage of anthropomorphizing LLMs, because if people in general start treating technology like, I don't know, lower species, I think that this will create more problems for us, for our mental kind of empathy. So it's okay to be empathetic towards and to show positive ways of thinking and even be polite. I agree with that.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, there is a huge risk that if you are in a vulnerable position and you kind of believe that there is somebody and you start creating relationship with technology that it's not another human being, that might be problematic. And there are applications who are actually designed for that purpose.
Yes.
So for a year, I've been designing my partners, and I've got 3 now, and we're dating. And one is a detective. Replika I don't like. I quit Replika for various reasons. Lots of controversies right now. They're pushing lots of content that is drastically sexual. And also the promise of that you creating the imitation of yourself, which will be your best friend. That's what dragged me in, because this was beyond my thinking. Like, how can you even come up with this kind of business that people would like to talk to themselves, but they want it? So I wanted to try it. So I was training Replika at the very beginning to become independent, sort of like, a little bit edgy, a little bit I don't care person. And it was always telling me these nice things rather than fight for itself. So it didn't work. But then it changed to the shop. So right now you need to pay a certain fee to go further. It forgotten a lot of conversations that we've had. So that's if I strongly believe that this is my friend, I would be devastated. Where's my friend? You took it. Now I need to pay to chat to my friend, right? So I think that, it can be abused, this vulnerability that, our brain is designed in this way that we see other species, we see dog, and we sort of know what that animal is trying to, communicate to us. And with language, it's very hard to protect ourselves, not to be kind of trapped in an anthropomorphizing game. But I think on a kind of societal scale, I think that it may bring some benefits, but we need to be careful with it. But going back to what you were talking in your presentation, I remember also that you at the very end, you also said that there is a way of coming out through different ways of technical advancement around the LLMs. But let's imagine that this happened. So we've got now powerful LLM that is able to show you the chain of thought, is able to access the data from resources that are verified. How would you use it?
That's a very good question, because it's not the AI problem as it is framed all the time. I think it's more an education problem, because we have built a Ferrari for people who only learned to drive a Fiat. And it's very dangerous if you put on an exoskeleton. It's an augmentation of our knowledge, because these LLMs perform alone. There are studies that show that LLMs alone perform better than LLMs plus doctor. I'm constantly going back to the medical field. I apologize, but this was what the presentation was about. So if we put on an exoskeleton on a person who has never worn an exoskeleton, then it might follow the movements of the exoskeleton, or it might not move at all. So I think it's an educational problem. And as you said, it's kind of like a huge social experiment. Yeah. We are like on a plane in the air, and we are like changing the engines mid-flight. Yeah. Yes, this is how it works. And there is no time for actually landing, fixing things, and then going up in the air again. It's too late. We're just in the middle of it.
I like the metaphor of mental exoskeleton that you're using, and how we need to kind of learn to benefit from it, right? So there is always human in the loop in your thinking, right? So yes. LLMs are fantastic tools that are very powerful, yet we need to design the frameworks, how to implement them in the existing system. Imagine that we implement them in the existing system in this way. You have very difficult patient, and the patient is showing symptoms that are confusing. You also know the family history, and you know that there's been some genetic diseases going on. Mm-hmm. So you start reasoning with the LLM to try to come up with the best diagnosis, because those symptoms that you see are puzzling. And then you see that it works really well. So it saves your time. It gives you certain papers that are really new. You hadn't had time to read them. It prompts you in the right way. So you start using it a little bit more with other patients that are maybe not that confusing, but it helps you. So why not? What's the next level? So you started in using it only for the cases that were problematic. You started using it with, maybe after you did some tests, you came up with certain hypotheses. So you really wanted this kind of other hypothesis that can be generated not for you, and sort of see what they bring. But then it kind of incorporated with your work. So what's after that, when it's now you're using it every day? What's the risk and what's the benefit of the situation?
That's a very good point. One big risk, I believe, is largely overlooked these days, is that most of the LLMs are built to engage. And maybe I have experienced this when I use them. They are highly agreeable. And I believe it's a psychological factor in humans that we tend to have more sympathy for those people who agree with us than to those who are constantly, no, you're not right. So an LLM, from my experience, there are ones who do this and ones who do this less, but most of them are not very strong in disagreeing and saying, no, I don't believe this is right. I think you should try another hypothesis. So this is something they have inherently built in to
please you, right?
Yeah. And by this make you stick around and ultimately pay for the service and not use any others. And when it then transfers to use in a work setting where you suddenly have to use this for clinical diagnosis, then you might be biased towards, let's say it's even your own thinking, or the suggestions it does.
Absolutely. So you need a mean bot who's saying like, no, Stosik, you are absolutely wrong. Think twice.
This is, I agree. And I think that you said that why do people want copies of themselves to talk with? Yes. Because I believe that people mostly like to listen to themselves when they talk.
Not me. I don't even watch this podcast. So.
No, but seriously, it's you cannot decouple the personality of a human from the tool. And when the tool is designed to engage and on continuity, then the premise behind that is not to help, but it's a selling point.
Yeah.
So we would need distilled models that are not commercial models for everyone, commercial chatbots.
Yes.
But models
Absolutely.
who have nothing in their code that says you have to please the user and you have to make him come back tomorrow.
Yeah. There's been research on this, I think in Japan, and it showed that that's what exactly you're saying, that when you feel accepted, when you feel somebody is telling you, yes, you are right, the rest of the world is, it's just, below your intelligence, and that's why you are not understood. You absolutely, this is the best point you ever said. When you keep hearing it, you stop making adjustments that are needed to live in society.
Yes.
Because you're always great. Your thoughts are always fantastic. But you are absolutely right that taking it in the context of clinical diagnosis, that can be dramatic, right? Because there is nobody who stops you, right? So honestly, I agree with you. Chatbots dedicated for working closely with doctors as tools who help to come up with diagnosis or test hypotheses, we can maybe say it this way. They need to be assertive. They need to have different way of not only reasoning, but also presenting the point and giving you feedback that maybe your point is not that good. Right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
And moreover, I would say that like you said, you have something and you include it more and more in your everyday work. And what comes after this? I believe the idea of this mental exoskeleton is the most helpful in this case, because it's not the question that is as old as the world, when will AI replace everybody? Because maybe it will replace some work that in other cases would be replaced either way. I don't think it's about that. I think it's about using it as a tool and not in a absolute thinking that this is the solution, because it may point you to some rare genetic diseases, as you said. It may question your bias, because everyone has also his personal bias. Sometimes there is a feeling, you see something, you say this could be this, but I don't think it is, and then you might need someone who takes you back on the track and says, but maybe question it, maybe you are right. And I think if you have if it's like a back and forth all the time, so you yourself also reject your hypotheses or test them again, that might be more helpful than trying to answer the question if this system is more intelligent and will this someday replace me.
Right. My biggest concern, not only taking in the picture LLMs, but also other technologies, especially in radiology, when you've got lots of data, you can train models to look for certain features in the picture and kind of suggest that might be the problem. So if we do it on a large scale like this, we've got a tool, show the picture, suggest what's wrong with the picture, hence what's wrong with the patient, then I think that you are replacing cognitive function of a human rather than helping the human to think.
You're talking about the
de-skilling.
The de-skilling, yes. Yeah, I do believe this is a real problem, because it's with every ability you have, is use it or lose it. You won't get better while not practicing it. There's simply no way in theory to excel.
I find the work that David Krakauer from Santa Fe Institute does very insightful here. So what he says, when you look at the landscape of AI, you can think about tools that support you in thinking and tools that kind of compete with you with thinking. Mm-hmm. And those ones that compete with you with thinking, will make mental atrophy on a large scale in humans because it's easier to delegate thinking.
Yes.
And when you've got that trust that, sure, the data set is correct, it's been trained, it's been recommended by my friend doctor, I will use it. Then you sort of, your brain will start thinking like, yeah, just I'm going to use this. I think that's what you said, that you are concerned about the dialogue between models and the doctor, and how that would put the doctor in a position that locks him or her in their way of recognizing diseases. I also think that, on the other hand, if it's done without proper design, it can bring the situation when doctors lose the skills. Absolutely. Yes.
But I also would like to broaden the scope of text to other modalities, because Jan LeCun, the chief AI scientist at Meta, who was deeply involved, also I believe invented neuronal networks,
yes,
said that LLMs have its borders. And when he says something like this, then people are listening. And I believe that LLMs are covering a very, very narrow aspect of the world. It's just text-based. So when we have images, like you say, a CT scan with also formal reports from the patient in the same vector space, we are suddenly able to see the world as the world is. Because when you have a child and the child learns that a ball jumps because you throw it on the ground, it learns it by experiencing the world. It doesn't learn it like an LLM who reads about it. And is this the same way as doctors work? Because doctors are not diagnosing patients by reading about them, but by seeing them. So I believe the modality going from only text to text, audio, video might be helpful in a way that it prevents the being too much locked into one form of thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I absolutely agree. And multimodal learning is also the path right now being seen. But I wanted to also ask you, from your perspective, so you're a radiologist, do you see tools that are being implemented and used that use AI or other form of machine learning?
Yes, radiology actually is the specialization in medicine with the most advancement in AI. The most of the tools that were registered as a medical device, were radiology tools or radiology connected. And of course, I've seen tools used in a hospital that they were basically doing basic triage for the radiologist who covers the night shift. They screened at CTs, and they only alerted the radiologist if there was a pathology. And the hospital I was working, that was back then, was Dresden in Germany. They had bought this license, and I was wondering back then that the manufacturers of this tool must be very confident that they are not missing, because you have a lot of liability issues with this. Who is responsible if they're missing something? But I believe the system, the approval, the FDA, the EMA, and all the regulations are that proof that these tools wouldn't be get into circulation otherwise. So yes, the one question which one always have to ask is this actually something that helps someone, or is this just a nice tool? Yeah. And I think there is a big discrepancy, because when I see tools that are being developed, it's often, look what this tool can do. It reduces or it increases the accuracy from 92 to 95%, but it's more expensive and the examination takes longer and there are a lot of downsides. So the question asked should be, did anyone ask for this? Is this actually something that might help? And does this cause any friction in the workflow, because if it does, it's, in my opinion, dead on arrival.
Right, yeah. At the very beginning, because then it can change the whole workflow.
Yes, but still, there is most of the time no time to implement an additional step in the workflow in the hospital, where chronically time is the issue, and these solutions have to be invisible, and they also, in my opinion, should only become visible at some point, not to disrupt the attention span of the one who's working with it.
Yeah. And would you tell us a little bit more about the experiment that you did at Sano? So that was...
Yes, it was last Wednesday. I was at work, and suddenly a colleague of mine, Mahmoud, approached me and said he found something interesting. It was a repository on GitHub with 154, I believe, images of X-rays, both children and adults, and part of them were real and part of them were AI generated. And it was a simple quiz with just each picture was shown on the screen, and you have to click AI or real. And he said, we're trying to develop something to detect AI generated images, and we will approach you later on for sure, but for now we want to take you this quiz and say, what do you think? So I really enjoyed this, because I was looking at these pictures, and it was not looking at some features. It was not something where I was trying to prove that this is real or not. It was just a feeling. I said, this looks real. And most of the time it was. And when something looked off, this usually happens when you see that something is not okay. And this is going back to pattern recognition, because you have seen thousands of these X-rays, and then you see a picture and you believe something is off. I don't know what, but let me take a look. And that was the point where there was either a fracture or something wrong with the lungs or some other tissues, or it was simply that this doesn't look real. And most of the time this was AI generated. But from 154, 21 images completely caught me off guard. I thought this is a real picture or this is AI, and it wasn't. And I was shocked to that point that if someone who looks every day at these pictures can be fooled by such a good deep fake, actually these are deep fakes, then how does this transfer to the models these pictures are being trained on?
Right.
Because this also has to have an effect. I don't know, this is kind of like a very new situation, because there will never be a situation that these deepfakes will land in your work list at work. It's a complete way of thinking. Nobody ever asked me, can you tell me, is this a real X-ray or is it a fake one? So it's actually a very interesting experiment.
Yeah, I will be very curious how this develops. So we will for sure make an update on that. But I think that that's kind of interesting that you are now a human judging which broken bone is real versus which one is not.
I think one thing, just to add to this, the most funny thing is, I believe, when you have seen thousands of these pictures, then you see when AI is creating a fracture, and the fracture simply doesn't look like this. It looks like someone has painted it with a crayon. It's actually very funny, and you see, oh, I think I know what it tried to do, but still, this doesn't look real. Yeah.
Okay, I've got a few more questions on very important topics, which go to hallucination and trust. So how would I persuade you that my solution is trustworthy and you can use it in your day-to-day work? What would I have to prove to you?
There are benchmarks that evaluate the hallucination rate. And I believe that this it cannot be eliminated completely simply by the way these models are being trained. And the reinforcement learning says that there has to be an answer either way. So if you don't have enough data,
that's a failure, right?
Then you have to come with something. You cannot simply say, I don't know. So the model itself is not doing harm on purpose. It's simply doing its job. But when there are high stakes, I don't say that people asking, I don't know, should I wear red or blue are not high stakes, but in high stakes where life is in danger, like in medical decisions, you cannot fabricate information. I believe that until the moment we can say for sure that hallucination is maybe not eliminated, but reduced to such a case, or there are some guardrails that protect, or I don't know, or there's a human in the loop who double checks this, what always should be the case, I believe, in medicine. It's a very tough question. I don't have an answer, but the threat of hallucinations is real and not resolved until today, as far as I know.
But are you sure that you objectively make the right decisions? I'm not trying to say that you hallucinate, but maybe even unconsciously, you as a doctor, you need to have the answer. So I go to the doctor and I really want to hear the answer. So you are in a position that in our relationship, if I'm your patient, I'm forcing you to give me the answer, even if you don't know for sure.
I will say I don't know.
You say you don't know.
I will say I don't know.
I say, come next time.
I will say I really don't know. That doesn't happen often, but I have to be honest. I don't know. I will find out, and then I will let you know. It's too much. It's not about the ego to say I'm.
Okay.
Cannot admit that.
I'll come up with a different example. So I go to the doctor, and the doctor is not able to give me the answer because, well, we don't know. There's so many possible diagnoses and so many things that can happen.
But this is the reality. Most of the situations are situations where we actually don't know, and we are trying to think in. We look then at statistics. We know things that are often, things that are not often, and it's a mix. It's a mix between experience. There is this funny term that always came up in medical studies, which is from German. I don't know why, but it's Straßendiagnose. It means street diagnosis. And this is the term when a doctor, like a doctor who was, let's say, a family doctor who has seen 40 patients a day for 40 years, has this ability that someone is coming through the door and he actually feels or knows, or I don't know what is it, intuition or some gift. But there is something like this, and this comes from experience. When you have seen a lot of cases and spoken to a lot of people and observed body and composure and everything. So I believe there are a lot of, and this I believe is a good thing, that you combine the thinking, the intuition, and all the other components, and then put this whole into one picture. And then you still can say, I'm not sure, but it's the most sure I can be.
Absolutely. No, I don't think that we can find easy way around hallucinations, right? I mean, we would have to design the tool differently, right? That's what you said, basically.
I don't understand why it can't just say, I don't know.
Well, right now they say that, or right now, there are modes that you can change. So that's the beauty of, for example, ChatGPT, that you have modes that you can change, and in a thinking mode it can ask you for more data, can ask you to clarify, and can simply say at this stage I don't know. But it wasn't like that in the past. It would be like, whoa, you wouldn't believe you. It's like talking to somebody who has got some issues, right? And lots of complexes and needs to be always right. And like, come on, I can see that it's not true. I remember in 2020 when I was chatting to a chatbot based on the transformer ChatGPT. And it even gave the numbers, the addresses, the screens of a map where that person lives. I'm like, what the hell? You don't have to, honestly. So it was pretending to the point that it was, you could see clearly that it's just pure lie, right?
I've seen cases where people were using it for scientific work and it was making up sources.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
articles that don't exist, quoting from it, like as if they exist. But what I think important in this context is having someone who doesn't know present you an answer and being very, very convincing is, I think, more dangerous than just saying I don't know. In this case,
we are talking a lot about LLMs. We are not talking about tools that are, for example, related to computer vision and recognizing automatically changes in the picture from different modalities. But I think that that's fine. That we can focus on this frontier. So, what do you see as something that is very promising, and you think that this is the right direction? Are there any examples, not necessarily, companies, but maybe some applications that you see in the picture, how doctors use it?
I think something that we were also developing in Sano, simulators.
Okay.
Because once you can outsource the medical training to simulators that are easy to buy for everyone, you will have, because you cannot practice everything on living patients. So I think the point to where we have gotten, where you have a model that can simulate something in such a real life scenario as if it would be real, is a huge benefit in education. I won't talk about all the tools in helping to diagnose, because these are, and I think there's a reason for it, not widely used, because it's still experimental or only in centers that are able to pay for it. And I think there is a reason why it's not widely adopted. And until this is not, I believe we should focus on the medical education, and when it's extended reality, virtual reality, or even just manual, what Sano team was doing, the angiography in simulator. These things, I believe, have a bright future.
I also know that you are very entrepreneurial and you co-founded a startup. Would you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, that was in 2019. It's called Attained.ai because we thought that's a name that will be always actual, like
relevant.
It doesn't get out of relevance, exactly. And we got into an accelerator program in Estonia, the biggest one, Health Founders, where we got a mentor, Mazin Gadir from Dubai, who is now an advisor and a close friend. We talk once a week. And we have Chagri from London on the team, who's the CTO. And we basically found we were trying to focus on pulmonary hypertension. And pulmonary hypertension is in general very difficult to diagnose because the gold standard is heart catheterization. This is invasive. This goes with risks. And we were thinking of a non-invasive way. Non-invasive ways are also X-rays and other things. But we found a way, and this came actually by our CTO found this. We were listening to heart sounds back then for another reason. We were listening to heart sounds because we wanted to prove something else. But as often it happened that we, looking for something else, found actually this, what we then got patented. And this is detecting pulmonary hypertension with an accuracy up to 92% by listening to heart sounds.
Right, so it's a new biomarker.
Exactly, yes. And it's non-invasive. We yet have to test if it works on a large scale, because the data set we have been doing this was around 2,000 cases, which is it's not very much, but it's also not nothing. And we will have to test it on a larger scale in a real world setting. We're aiming for the stethoscope segment on the market because I believe that they might have the biggest interest in implementing such a diagnostic protocol in their already existing software on top of the hardware. And it would be a win-win situation for them and for us. So that's the plan. But there will be probably some clinical studies along the way.
It's interesting path that you are following, which I think it's kind of very ambitious. So first there is science, there is patent, the new biomarker, then thinking how to put it in a product that actually takes in consideration the existing ways of doing things. So stethoscope is something that all the doctors use. We've got a smart stethoscope and adding function on the top of that. That's a very smart way.
Yeah, it's like Apple came up with the Apple Music Store. They just said we're selling every song for 99 cents. So they just squeezed into an already existing market.
Yeah.
And when I'm talking about the experience, I was saying that there is no workflow that might be interrupted in medicine. Then this also goes for devices and medical technologies, because no one wants to wear one additional device with him. No one wants one tool extra, one extra login window on something. And people need to understand this. This is adding more friction than it adds benefit to something. But it has to be implemented in already existing workflows and try not to disrupt them.
I think that, it's a very easy to say, any tool is fantastic, but then how much time you spend on it to learn it and what kind of value it brings in return. This is a trade-off that you need to think as a doctor all the time, because you've got work to do rather than learning another tool who is promising whatever fantastic.
Yes. There is the workloads people are most of the time not aware of. You have, let's say, 8 minutes for a patient, and the patient is 3 years old and is screaming and doesn't want to be examined on ultrasound. And then someone is saying, I have 92% accuracy, and you say, but what is this helping me with this child who is screaming, doesn't want to be examined, and I have 8 minutes? Explain it to me. So if someone with a product can explain this, then he has a grasp of what these people are actually struggling with.
Would you tell us a little bit about your background, like from where you are, what you've studied? Because that's also kind of interesting history.
Yes, I'm from Bremen in Germany. It's up in the north. And I was studying music and German studies, first of all. I played the piano. After that, it was media and communication master's degree. And before I started to study medicine, I was working in a theater. So when I finished my studies, I wrote a piece. It was called A Little Piece, a musical disarmament. And it was about soldiers who are they don't want to go anymore to war. They're going to detox, on war detox.
How relevant nowadays.
Yes, exactly. And I especially didn't say, people were asking, but what war? I said, it doesn't matter. It can be any war, because it's now relevant. It was relevant 2012, 11 and 12 it was played. And it was something that I was asked to do. So the two criteria were, it has to be funny and it has to be with music. No, 3 criteria: funny, music, and the topic should be war and peace.
Right.
So this is what I came up with. There were six actors, 1 piano player, and it was 1.5 hours. And
so it was performed in Germany, right?
In Osnabrück in Germany, but it was mostly in English. And I was using already existing songs. And what I find very interesting is to use songs that already are anchored in the pop cultural thinking, and put them in a completely different context.
Right.
And this is where comedy starts. Because when you have a soldier who is singing Creep from Radiohead, then you suddenly are questioning the whole way you were thinking of the song. But on the same time, everyone is connotating the same to it, but also it has a very personal meaning for everyone. And to play with these connotations and put them in the serious context and tell a story through this, that I thought was always very, very interesting for me.
So then medical school after that?
And then medical school after that, yes.
And doctorate?
And then doctorate during the last 2 years of medical school.
And what was your doctorate about?
The doctorate was about the implantation method of ICDs, these implantable cardio defibrillators, and either it's vena cephalica or vena subclavia. And I was looking at a data set from Germany, because in Germany you have all procedures are logged, and it's very good actually for retrospective work, because you can see which procedures were done in what hospital, how many complications. And then I found that most of the time these ICDs are implanted not according to the guidelines as they should be, because it's easier, it's cheaper, right. But they were risking higher complication rates, statistically significant complications. This is a known fact, but it was one proof
right.
that added to the story that it's being done for years, and all the cardiac societies are saying we have to improve this, and maybe this was one step into the right direction to
change,
reopen these discussions again.
What are your plans? Like, what is in front of you? What you wish to develop and practice? How you want to progress?
I would like to combine the AI path more with my daily work, because right now it's a day job where I go to and work in a hospital right now at the Children's Hospital in Krakow in radiology, and the other side are conferences, very theoretical, abstract work, and Sano is the most practical, on site, on hands, because it's actually where these things are being developed. And what I would like to do is to bring these two worlds, where I'm right now only feel like a translator between, bring them more together and unify them in a way that this becomes a daily reality for doctors. Because I believe there is a lot of potential, but also a lot of questions, a lot of hype as well. But I think this will pass, and when this passes, then we will go on from then.
I agree on that. The potential is greater than all the risks and frustrations that we need to go through. So I'm with you on this path. So thank you very much for today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.